Recently there has been a lot of hype about the first person mode in Fortnite, and I think it's not a question if we gonna get it, but when we gonna get it. So I thought I can do it myself before Epic can do it. Well, and as you guys remember from the Lego character video, I'm still on the Unreal Engine grind. Well, I wouldn't particularly say that my rank has improved, I would rather say I deranked from Silver Dev to... yeah. Well, I did manage to make the Lego character have grid snapping on, creating a full game, or somewhat that looks like a full game that has a first person mode and everything that was planning for this is definitely exceeding my skill level at this point. So I had to get my priorities straight and make a list of everything that I want to do and everything that I can do. While I agree the list for the things that I can do is not that long, I had to make Fortnite basically. But let's start with the simple things first. The great thing about Fortnite characters is that they're obviously made by Epic. And you know what also was made by Epic? Yeah, the Unreal Engine. Therefore, the characters are super easy to import. Well, they have the same exact model as the Unreal Engine mannequin. And as easy as that, I had animations for normal walking without the gun, and I had animations for the guns. However, this time I wanted to do it right. On a Lego character, I had two sets of animations which I toggled with a button, which is not the right way of doing it. Well, for character animations, you usually want to blend the animations in an anim graph. This is done by basically merging them together and giving them values, so they play the right animations at the right time. Which led me to the next step, creating a pickup logic, so I can pick up the gun and basically use it afterwards. But picking up a gun and having it in your hand doesn't make the gun shoot. See, the thing that we take for granted in video games, like shooting the gun, reloading, recall and all that stuff, has to be made from scratch, and it is actually a lot of work to create that from scratch. So the first thing I had to do was create the shooting. So there's basically two ways how shooting is done in shooter games. As projectile or hit scan. The one is obviously being traveling distance and the other one is being almost immediately impact. While in my project, for simplicity reasons, I stuck to projectiles, most games these days have a mix of both of them. So after God knows how many tutorials, my Scar could finally shoot and aim down sight. The next thing was adding the reloading. So I had to add ammo, making sure that we had reload animations, and also since the tutorial I was watching was giving 3 different shooting types, we also added that. Figuring out how the recoil system works on the other hand was probably one of the hardest things that had me stuck for the longest time. I'm pretty sure there are procedural and randomized recoils and some that you can probably even just buy the blueprints from. But in the end I stuck to a recoil system which I found was pretty cool, which was basically one of my favorite games, CSGO, where the guns always have the same spray pattern. So after everything was done, there was one last thing missing, and that was actually adding a little bit of screen shake, so it actually looks a little bit more like the gun is shooting and doesn't just like stick straight to the line the recoil is going up to. Last on the list before adding the gunsmiths was actually making sure that everything works flawless. So having little touch-ups, making sure that the transitions between first person and third person are flawless, and adding a little animation which basically zooms into the thing that you want to pick up. Well, at this point I created my own little Walmart Fortnite version. Obviously having a lot of flaws and it's not perfect, but I was pretty happy with it. The last and final step was actually the most fun, because I could actually be creative. However, it was also the most hardest because I actually had to understand what I'm doing, because there was rarely any tutorials on how to do it. The gunsmith. Oh boy, the main thing I had in mind was doing something like Call of Duty, where you had a system that you can pick cool things and just make it work. Well, it was definitely not as simple as just make it work. So the first thing I did was getting the camera work right. So making sure we had flawless transitions between the guns, attachments, and going into the gunsmith mode and then going out of it. The next step that we had to do was making sure that we create the attachments, because obviously Fortnite doesn't have any attachments yet. So I basically went back to my old friend Blender. And in Blender I basically ripped a few guns apart and use them as attachments. For example, I used the silencer from the Silent Scar, then I used a bigger mag from some founder Scar that is, I think, can save the world, and for the last and final one, I used a holo sight from Sketchwrap. And with all that in place, we had our final product. We have a gun you can pick up, shoot into the different modes, have recoil and ammo, and if your gun gets boring, you can go with your gun into the gunsmith and upgrade it to your liking. Add a holo, silencer, a bigger mag, and maybe even make it gold, and you can even shoot with that gun. It was really a fun journey, and it made me respect actual devs a lot more.